And if you're a producer watching this, guys, seriously, just put the effort in. If a producer doesn't ask these questions before working on a song with you, just fire them. If they don't ask... So I recently posted this TikTok and it just got some weird reactions. Like here, I'm just gonna read through some of them. You're hiring a producer, not a therapist. Those are $250 an hour questions. If I'm doing $25 an hour sessions, all I'm asking how you want it to sound. I never waste my time with this subjective nonsense. You sure it's a producer, not a counselor you're describing here? For your guys' sake, I legitimately hope none of your clients actually saw your comments. When I made that post, I genuinely believe that these are the questions that a producer should be asking their client. So I'm going to break down each one of those points and explain the thought process behind it, once I'm done explaining who I am and what I do. Hi, my name is Seth. I work as a remote pop producer, and I help pop artists tell their stories. Songs I've produced have been featured on these Spotify curated playlists, and if you have a modern pop vision you want to get off the ground, click the link in the description and we can get started. So now let me explain the thought processes behind each one of those questions. One, if you are working with a producer, they should be asking questions about your musical background. They should ask things like, well, how did you get into music? What genre did you start with? And I find that these questions are really important just for me as a producer. Like, not even just emotional counselor time. These are important for me to know in order for me to be able to do my job seriously. If somebody tells me they got into music via metal versus jazz, that tells me a lot about the communication that we're gonna have. Because for a jazz artist, a breakdown is literally the part of the song where it breaks down. The drums feel like they're falling apart. There might be a bit of a retardando, and it just feels like everything is falling apart. On the opposite side of that, if you're a metal musician, a breakdown is the halftime chuggy part of the song that gets everybody pumped. So if an artist tells me that they want a breakdown, what that translates to depends entirely on how did they get into music? What's their musical backstory? And I need to know those things. They need to understand your musical vocabulary and your perspective in order to give you the thing that you want and not waste your time making something that you don't want. Another thing your producer should be focused on is, what is the backstory behind this specific song? The context behind the song when it was written is super important. The best example I have of this story is I was working on a song with a buddy of mine and I tried making this fun hip hop beat and it just wasn't sitting right with him. And when I asked him, dude, do you know why these visions aren't really matching each other right now? I feel like we're on different wavelengths. He explained that the scenario behind the song and when he wrote it, it was actually a pretty heartbreaking story. And this high energy, fun beat didn't match the energy of the context he wrote the song in. And he just put it as simple as this: the song is really orange right now. I need it to be more blue. If there's a story behind the song, that's one of the first things your producer should be asking questions about. Like, imagine you wrote the song as a tribute to somebody in your family who passed away, and your producer is trying to make like this Bruno Mars style funk beat. Like, it's basic communication. If they don't want to waste your time or give you something that you're unhappy with, they should be asking that question. The next thing they should be asking is, what were your musical inspirations specifically for this song? Rough demos don't tell the whole story. I can hear this demo of you playing this guitar part, but were you trying to make it sound like Dua Lipa or the Beatles? There's an infinite amount of ways that it can go, but I need to know what you were trying to do. And this question is different than what are your musical inspirations, because whenever you ask what are your musical inspirations or your background, artists will tend to pick very monumental artists that are very important to the foundation of them becoming who they are as a person. But sometimes when you're writing a song, those artists are not what inspired the song. You could be a metal drummer who listened to Harry Styles for the first time last week, and so you wrote this acoustic guitar part that was inspired by cherries. Again, your producer should be asking this question because it will save you and them a lot of headache and a lot of wasted communication if they just take the time to ask you these questions. And then one of the last ones that I think is super important is, what is your mental vision for the song? You can have a musical artist that was your inspiration for the actual musicality of the song, and you can have this backstory of how you wrote it as a writer, but what's your vision of it? You can have this song that you wrote after you broke up with your ex and you were sitting in your car and you were super inspired by this one Adele song, but your actual vision for the song is this Rolling in the Deep style music video with slow motion camera moves Maybe you think about a really random color like blue and it's like washing over you. Maybe you're a visual person and you've completely visualized a stage show for it. You'll have this artistic vision. Like if this song was a comic book or scene from a movie, what would it be? And this one is super important because it is your producer's job to embody that. If they are completely unaware of this vision, it's almost impossible for them to give you something that you're happy with. An example of this, I'm working on this song right now. I'll start playing it in the background right now. And it was inspired by this sort of nothing, nowhere, emo, pop, punk, trap sound. And the motivation behind it was I wanted to write like a breakup song from the perspective of somebody who really didn't want to get into a relationship in the first place. And like this breakup is sort of throwing them back into the old life that they used to have. And I'm imagining verses and choruses as being scenes from movies, somebody driving a fast car down a highway at nighttime, someone sitting alone at a bar, walking at home by themselves in the rain with their hood over them. I have this vision for this song. And if I was bringing it to a producer and they did not give a crap about any of it, I would be justified in firing them. Because the whole point of me coming to them as a producer is I have this vision and I want it to become real now. So those are my explanation for those 4 points. And if you're a producer watching this, guys, seriously, just put the effort in. Just take the time to go deeper with your artists. Like this sounds like a big questionnaire, but it can literally be done in like 20 to 40 minutes on a Zoom call. It's not that hard. And it goes a long way to show your artist that you actually care about them. This will lay down the groundwork for healthy communication between you and your artist for the rest of your project. Also, if you're super cynical about it, you could just view it as a way to save time. You are going to get a more clear vision of what your artist wants, so you will spend less time in the studio making stuff that they don't want. With a lot of the comments on that TikTok that I posted, so many of them just had the vibe of, I just can't be bothered. And I would just say to those people, you are in a service-based industry. How well you treat your clients is how well you are doing your job. Don't be lazy. You are being paid to care about the emotions of your artist. So yeah, you kind of are a therapist. If you don't care about the art or the passion, how are you any different from one of those soulless shills who has an office job and just works for the next paycheck? And if you're a musician or a singer watching this, the ball is now in your court. Keep your producers accountable if they're not invested in the song. Communicate with them if there's frustration. If there's any vision or something that you feel like has been oversighted, sit down with them and talk with them. And if you go through that whole process of trying to reach out and they're not responsive to it at all, yeah, you're more than welcome to fire them. You are literally paying them to care about your song. So if they don't care about your emotions or your backstory or your song's backstory or any of your musical influences, how on earth are they supposed to care about you or your art? Your producer should be someone you trust. Anyway, I thought I would just make this video real quick. If you've enjoyed it so far, hit subscribe and I'll see you guys later.